Welcome to Legacy in Action. Running a family business doesn't just test strategy, it tests the soul. To give us more insights in this episode, please welcome Jonathan Ramos, author of Legacy in Action. John is talking about faith not as religion, but as a leadership advantage, an anchor in pressure, a filter in decisions, a fuel for endurance. If you lead a family business, this episode is for you. Let's begin.
There were tears. That's how Rhea Mantohac and Dallas described one of the hardest moments in their family business journey. At one point, she asked herself a painful question: is this even worth it? Not because the business was failing, but because the family was hurting. 3 generations, hundreds of relatives, unspoken expectations, emotional wounds, and yet they stayed. Because something deeper was at stake, their future. If you lead a family business, this episode is for you. Because today, I want to show you how faith actually works in business, not as a religion, but as a practical force that keeps families steady, decisions honest, and leaders enduring. I am Jonathan Ramos, and this is Legacy in Action. Let's start with faith as anchor. I'd like to begin with a quick story that you can read in the Legacy in Action book, particularly in chapter 10. In 1988, while the Philippines was still unstable, after EDSA actually, and when many professionals were leaving the country, Dr. Reghis M. Romero II chose to stay. He founded R2 Builders not just to earn, but to serve. He once said, "Without prayer, I would have seen only problems. With prayer, I saw purpose." That faith anchored him. And look at what followed: housing for marginalized communities, ports for streamlined supply chain to bring down costs of logistics, environmental systems that include waste to energy to lower the cost of electricity in the country. Big projects, big money, but big responsibility. Yet the family remained humble, not entitled. No arrogance, just service. In 2024, they formalized this through a family constitution, not just as governance, but as a values-based covenant rooted in prayer and shared mission. Here's the lesson: an anchor keeps you from drifting, especially when things get heavy. Faith anchored the Romero, so success didn't become ego, and growth didn't erase humility. Ladies and gentlemen, when faith anchors the leader, the business serves real human needs. And that's good goods. Yes, good goods. Let's move on to faith as a filter. Well, a filter matters when you have choices, but not all choices are right. The Decena family, founders of Will Decena and Associates, built a respected construction firm through skill, discipline, and faith. At the center were 2 leaders with very different styles. Will was bold and visionary, while Gene was careful and structured. At times, that created tension. And as the company grew and in-laws became deeply involved, another challenge appeared: blurred roles, informal authority, emotional loyalty, and overriding performance. Here's where faith becomes a filter. The Decena family realized something very important, actually. And they said, clarity protects relationships. So they made hard decisions, moving from relationship-based roles to merit-based professionalism. They defined roles, they set standards, they signed their family constitution. Ouija, a second-generation leader, said it plainly. Success is not relying on our last name alone. Can you imagine that? That for me is faith as filter. It asks, is this fair? Is this right? Does this honor people and purpose? And when faith filters decisions, work becomes dignified. People are treated fairly. Systems prevent favoritism. Professionalism protects family relationship. And that's what you call good work. Let's move on to faith as fuel. Let's return back to the story we started with, the Duros Group. Fe Mantuhak Barino and Lito Barino started with nothing grand. No inheritance, no big plan. They sold peanuts, hugs, furnitures. Then they took a bold step into construction. Over time, they grew into a diversified group. Construction, real estate, education, hospitality, property management, and many others. But growth brought complexity. And you imagine 3 generations, more than 200 family members, different priorities, emotional wounds, baggages. But Rhea Mantohak Andales said it honestly. There were misunderstandings, emotional hurt, moments when they weren't on the same page. And yet, she said something powerful. And she said, but our unity as a family was worth fighting for. Worth fighting for. Wow. As informal agreements stopped working, the family faced a choice. Avoid the pain or endure it. Well, they choose endurance. They enter the process of building and strengthening the Duros family constitution, starting with their culture as a family. Well, it wasn't easy. There were tears, just like what Rhea said. And at one point she asked, is this even worth it? But they pressed on. Yes, they pressed on because something deeper was at stake, their future. So on January 27, 2024, they signed the family constitution and ownership succession plan. And at the heart of it was one conviction. This is not ours. We are just God's stewards. That one line changes everything. Leadership becomes service. Conflict is handled with humility. Succession becomes trust, not fear. Success becomes purpose, not just profit. Ladies and gentlemen, this is faith as fuel. Fuel is what keeps all of us going. Do you agree? Especially when work is slow, emotional, and painful. And because faith fuels them, wealth becomes stewardship. Or I'd say became stewardship. And that's good wealth. So, here is faith integration simply stated. Faith as anchor keeps leaders steady. And that's good goods. Second, faith as filter keeps decision honest. And that's good work. The third one is faith as fuel keeps families enduring. The result, good wealth. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what you call vocation. Not just doing business, but becoming a particular kind of leader that we must become in business. So let's make this practical. Let's look at legacy moves number 1 as our anchor. Here it is. Before your next big decision, ask out loud, what are we building this for? Is this for myself, my family, my community, for God? Well, when you ask those questions, it opens a lot of ways on how you look at things. So better dive into it. Second, legacy moves number 2 is actually about filter. So here you can use the simple decision test. Is it right? Is it fair? Does it align with our long-term values? Yes. So if you look into all of those 3 questions, it purifies your intention, right? Now, let's move to legacy number 3, the fuel. So here, you choose one faith rhythm. Prayer before hard conversation, or gratitude in meetings, or a regular family reflection. After all, we must keep things simple and keep it consistent. Why? Because faith in business isn't soft. It's what keeps families together when money can't. So our next episode, we talk about transcendent impact, when legacy moves beyond family and business into mentoring, service, and nation building. So if you're leading a family business and want tools to professionalize without breaking relationships, comment legacy. This is Legacy in Action.
Faith steadies. Faith clarifies. Faith sustains. When it shapes leadership, business becomes more than profit. It becomes purpose. This is Legacy in Action. Build well, lead well, leave a legacy. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your family and friends who would benefit from this insight.